Welcome back. You're watching Newsx. I'm Pratap Singh. USIBC has reaffirmed its role in bridging the two nations' tech ecosystems, showcasing its AI's vast potential across sectors and paving the way for sustainable investment and innovation. The US-India strategic relationship continues to deepen and expand via the Quad and the US-India initiative on critical and emerging technologies. Meanwhile, the big question that arises is, will supply chains move to India, and what is the future of US-India ties? Joining us now is the Executive Director of USIBC, Jacob Gullish. Jacob, thank you for being with us. Tell us a bit more about the Bengaluru Tech Summit 2024.
Wonderful. First and foremost, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be back in Bangalore. It's one of my favorite Indian cities, and I've been here a dozen times. And every time I come back, you just sort of see the growth, you see the excitement, you see the startups, you see the people, and really understand why Bangalore has emerged as one of the global hubs for technology and innovation around the world. I've really been pleased to be part of the Bengaluru Tech Summit for many, many years now. We started before COVID. Obviously, COVID created a pause and disrupted the in-person activities. And then for the last 3 years, we've been hosting and organizing a US-India technology conclave, one of the core tracks as part of the overall exhibition. For those who don't know about BTS writ large, it's one of Asia's largest technology exhibitions and conferences. And when you come here, it feels that way. The number of people, the amount of excitement and energy generated, you may hear some of the crowds in the background. It's really a wonderful opportunity to learn firsthand about what's going on, not only here in India, but how India is, as I said, a global hub and impacting technology development and innovation around the world.
What role now does USIBC play at the Bengaluru Tech Summit, and for how many years has the USIBC been associated with the Bengaluru Tech Summit?
Yeah, no, wonderful. We've been doing this for over 5 years now, and in the last couple of years, we've really elevated and escalated our activities. What we do is we create a track of conversation, of ideas, of information and exchange, conversation and discussion that really helps the two communities between India and the United States really evolve and learn and ultimately develop and commercialize technologies. Very specifically, in our track, we have a series of panels. We do a couple of things. I think the most important is thought leadership. We come up with really cutting edge ideas, topics for discussions, and then we get leading thinkers, experts, and others from around the world that come together and actually talk through these issues. Notionally, it's a series of panels. This year, for example, we did a AI town hall where the audience really got involved, and we're talking about AI and commercial space and other really important topics that really bring together the United States and India in both commercial and strategic and critical and emerging technologies. In the past, we've created a conference topic, and this year, as you may see, it's about innovation unbound and unchained, and it really is representative of what's going on here in India. The overall conference has different areas of focus, whether it's life science or gaming or AI or semiconductors. And of course, we leverage what's going on in the US-India relationship, which is truly, I think, unique and synergistic. And those are the topics that we tend to focus on and try to bring forward, try to create thought leadership and drive the conversation. And hopefully that impacts the agenda, how governments think, how companies invest, ultimately what products are developed, how they're marketed, and ultimately utilized in both nations.
Now, which are the key sectors where USIBC sees a potential for US businesses to possibly set up base in Karnataka?
No, absolutely. That's a great question. We've been listening to the Karnataka IT Minister, Karge, and the IT Secretary, as well as leaders and officials from the US government. A couple of things actually come out. One is Karnataka is a leader in areas of global capability centers. Of course, the GCCs, as they're often called, really represents a whole cadre of technologies, but it also overlays sector information and insight and intelligence. And that's where India's, I think, core capability, where there's just tremendous amount of resources here at reasonable costs, also at scale. That's really important. And so companies, and many American companies, over 1,500 of them, have come to India, and many in Bangalore, and they set up shop and they do all kinds of different things, but it's R&D and service delivery. And that's an area where the government of Karnataka, I think, is a leader. They've come out with their own GCC policy, and I think other states are doing the same. And you're going to see a lot of focus and information and news and deals being made, not only here at BTS, but through the coming years. And that's an area that we're really are focused on as well. Clearly, AI is a second area. I mean, AI, there's a lot of excitement about the large language models, but it actually represents a broad-based set of technologies. And again, for the same reasons, great capabilities at scale, at cost. India has emerged as a hub for AI, not only servicing and providing products and development for the rest of the world, but also there's a massive AI startup community here, and we've met with many of them. And I think there's great things. The other area where I think there's a lot of opportunity that people are talking about is commercial space. The US and the Indian government are working together on a number of civil space programs, and then on commercial space, whether it's SATCOM or launch services or geospatial. There's a lot of excitement and activity and movement in that area as well. The third topic that we're hearing a lot about is not really a sector, but it's an activity. And there's a number of American universities that are actually coming to India. Just this week, both Rice University out of Texas and Johns Hopkins University out of Baltimore have very large delegations, and they're signing MOUs and research agreements with Indian academia and particular facilities. And both governments are very interested in promoting that. There is a very important company linkage to that. And that's where USIBC plays. And next year, we will get more involved in that to try to create the ongoing processes, simple architectures that maybe help resolve complex issues about how academia itself conducts research, innovates, and then ultimately commercializes and spins that off to both industry and society writ large.
Now, which are the key emerging sectors where USIBC sees a potential for US investment in India?
Yeah, as I said, sort of, to summarize, it would be GCCs, which is a large grouping of technologies that also include a lot of sector-specific information, knowledge, and expertise. AI is the second area. Commercial space, as I mentioned, to broadly include SATCOM, commercial space activities like satellite manufacturing and launch and operations, as well as geospatial. And the third area is academic partnerships, and that really represents a broad set of different sectors, different technologies, but I think it's a foundational area that will create a lot of benefit for both countries and both industries.
Right. Now, how have India-US ties thrived, according to you, under Joe Biden's administration?
So the last, several years have been really exciting for the U.S.-India relationship. First and foremost, it's been deeper and broader than I think it has in history. And I think up front we should share that, the U.S.-India relationship isn't about political party. It's very bipartisan. If you go to Washington and walk the corridors, India is an important partner in both the Democratic and Republican arenas. And so regardless of who is in power and which administration, and this includes both the presidency and Congress, I think you're going to see a continued trajectory, a trend line that continues to deepen the U.S.-India partnership. Technology and the digital economy in particular are a critical element and have been for a long time in the relationship. What you've really seen in the last 3 or 4 years is a maybe not a shift, but an expansion. A lot of the historic relationships were commercial in nature and commercial technology, whether IT or IT-enabled services or media and entertainment. And what you've seen in the last 4 years is a shift to strategic technologies.
Yes.
And there is an initiative called the Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies, often called ISET. And we've been pleased and proud to actually be a part of that. We helped launch the initiative in January 2023. There's 4 or 5 technologies that are underneath that umbrella. And then we've worked to move and implement those with the governments, of course. And those technologies are things like semiconductors, 5G, 6G, other advanced telecommunications, quantum communications is in that mix, innovation in the aerospace and defense arena as well as I mentioned, promoting academic partnership, baseline, core, fundamental research that will have long-term implications.
Yes.
And I think going forward, you're going to see other topics come in and out of ISET, but the overall trajectory and line of where we're going is crystal clear, and I think that'll continue.
How do you expect India-US ties to thrive now, moving forward under Donald Trump?
Yeah, as I said, the U.S.-India relationship is truly strategic. It's long-term. It's predicated on people, whether it's the Indian diaspora, the large number of Americans are here, or obviously the massive number of Indians that have some experience either working, living, or studying in the United States. And that's the core. And as that sort of moves up into both commercial and strategic technologies, I really don't think any particular administration is going to change that trajectory. In fact, I think each administration will build on it individually. And I think the new administration will look at the progress that's happened over the last 4, 8, 12 years. They're obviously going to make their own nuanced changes and overlay their own priorities. But again, I think the trajectory is clear and it's not going to change. And I think it may even accelerate going forward.
Okay.
I think we could learn from, the previous Trump administration. There were some topics that might come back on the technology agenda, such as things around 5G and 6G and broadcast technologies. Quantum as well might be an area that we may see a little more attention. But again, it's hard to say. We're still in the early days and understanding who the new people are and who's going to do what and where. But I can share that at least the initial announcements, whether it's at State Department or the National Security Agency or the FCC, really suggest that going forward, we're going to continue on the same pathway.
Right.
Just a strong core relationship based on, for the variety of factors I've already mentioned, for long-term, strategic opportunities and necessities, and that's gonna continue as well.
Right. Do you believe then that Donald Trump's policy to impose tariffs will impact Indian goods and their ability to enter U.S. markets? Do you believe possibly trade will be reduced as well between both countries?
Yeah. So as I said, the relationship's going to be strong. The administration is going to pick its own priorities. But importantly, the two countries in the current status, we have a mature relationship. It's we can bring issues and we can figure them out, and it's not going to derail anything that's going or what might be introduced going forward. And we're going to figure it out. So we're not really concerned, nor our members, about any specific activity. And in fact, what we think is overall, we're on this pathway, this trajectory of strategic partnership, and technology is core of that, and that's going to continue, bottom line.
What about stringent immigration laws under Trump? Do you believe the H-1B visas will be reduced for Indians?
Yeah, that's a really complex issue. It's handled by the U.S. Congress. We'll have to see how they address it going forward. Again, mobility and people are fundamental to the technology ecosystem. Both the United States and India have them. We're gonna figure this out. I mean, industry has been able to operate in both countries successfully over the last, as I said, 4, 8, 12, 25, 30 years, and we're going to go forward. And I don't see any one issue going forward is really changing what's happening on the ground here. And what's happening on the ground here and in the United States is that the two countries have a unique synergy, a unique partnership. We each bring different things to the table. The United States has a lot of know-how and capital and a large market, and India has massive, technology capability and resources that are exciting and are inventive, and startup communities in both. And so, I think it's going to be a very exciting time going forward.
Do you think then India stands to gain from Trump's policies of high tariffs on Chinese goods?
I mean, there's a clear shift in global supply chains, and India has benefited from that. I think the continued policies of India will allow it to capture more more pieces of it. I mean, obviously, the Indian government is very focused on that with incentives and policies and conversations, and that's going to continue. I think India's success in this arena is we're gonna see it. American companies are here and excited to get involved, and those companies will continue with their research and development and investing in global capability centers. And again, I don't think any of the issues that you sort of mentioned are going to change the fundamental aspect of why the United States and India are strategic long-term partners, right?
Okay.
It comes down to these core, and I'm going to go back to it again. It starts with people.
Yes.
The United States and India, we just have a unique relationship. It starts with people. Our companies are interactive, and they're in both. They operate in two markets, and they leverage what we're doing here to tap global markets, and that's going to continue.
All right. I'm going to have to leave it at that. Thank you very much, Jacob Gullish, for joining us on Newsx. Let's take a break.